What up? What up? Oh man, we got thumbs up in the chat already. That's love right there. We are kind of doing a little old school today. Man, I had to wait on AT&T at the crib or whatnot. So to be perfectly honest with you guys, not getting to the studio today was definitely my fault. And y'all know how it is when you're getting stuff hooked up at the crib and you need internet. So couldn't skip that appointment. But anyway, glad we were able to do this at 6, man. How you doing, Coop? What's good?
I'm good, but I'm not being down here anymore like that. Everybody knows that I'm hoods, so I had to like remove the cobwebs and like spider webs, like literally just to get back through to the desk. I was like, damn, has it been that long since I sat in the chair? I was
Yeah,
thinking
man.
like that long since chair. I mean, even to do my backup podcast with Andrew and Mirror Music, it's like, well, I haven't been down here in a while. I mean, a couple things happened to me personally that have kind of switched my situation up a little bit. But, blessed to be here. I left my damn keyboard upstairs, so I'm about to abandon you briefly to go get my
Go
keyboard
ahead,
off.
get your keyboard, man. We getting everybody in the room. Thumbs up in the chat, everybody. Oh, another thing we didn't talk about offline that we're going to talk about. Did you see that Lyricist of the Year nominee lineup the BET put out there for the Hip Hop Awards?
Mm-mm-mm.
Andre 3000 got a nomination. I have no idea how. But go ahead, get your keyboard. Get your...
That's so absurd. That's so absurd.
I
Get
don't.
one verse here, and it's an old verse probably.
And it's a
Um,
song that didn't even make the original album.
it's ridiculous.
What is it? The Donda verse?
Is that yes?
No, you know what? It might be the Killer Mike verse. I forgot about that one. That was very forgettable.
Two verses, Mike. Like I'm going to get my keyboard. This is absurd.
They said still hating on 3000. No, that's not hate at all. I love 3000. Now, like I said, I wouldn't be who I am without the impact of 3000, Outkast, the Dungeon. But I mean, it's it's wild that you can do one verse and get nominated for Lyricist of the Year. I don't really know what the criterias are. Actually, let me go ahead and pull up the actual nominees. Yeah, shout out to the Classic Setup. A lot of y'all became, fans and followers and viewers of this show from this setup. We got Biggie in the background on Coop's end. Y'all might not see Jimi Hendrix on my end, but whatever. Anyway, we back at it. We got some football tonight too, so we're not gonna keep y'all too long, but we're gonna have a real live show.
What time is the game? What time the Jets play?
Man, it's just probably like 8:30 ish or something. You already know. I mean, speaking of which, I mean, I know you're not really big on Aaron Rodgers like that. What do you expect?
First of all, got a couple things I'd like to say. Uh, our man LT hit me up late last night, which he rarely does. LT usually hits me early in the morning. Man, LT hit me late last night. Said I was my words about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. I say check the record and the resume in the playoffs. Then I'm on the phone with 007 today, Mike. I talked to 007 today.
Shout out to them guys, man. 007 and yeah.
And 007's like, yeah, you got me till 8. I was like, what? He's like, Jets game. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm not about to fight with 007 about this. But what's Aaron Rodgers' record in NFC Championship games, Mike?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure you know.
One and a bunch of L's, Mike. How you say it in Spanish? Uno. How you say it in French? English, one.
Well, I got Wilson on my fantasy football team, and so I'm hoping that Aaron Rodgers is throwing him.
Wilson who?
The receiver from the Jets.
I thought you meant Russell Wilson. I was like, why would you do that?
Oh, no, I got rid of him. I had him last year. Yeah, I didn't pick him back up. Matt Max of the Super Chat says, how about them Cowboys? Jew Hurd, 40 ball, Kobe style.
They
Cowboys gonna win the Super Bowl?
No, they're gonna fail with that. Mike, like where have people been?
I mean, I'm just asking questions here.
I hear you. Keep on. Ain't nobody thinking. Did you see the 49ers? That's why I'm not thinking about the Cowboys, because the 49ers exist.
49ers look good. I have their defense, by the way, as well. So I got a pretty good team this time around on fantasy football. I do want to
New York Jets and the Cowboys are going to the same two places, Mike. They're going to the playoffs and they're going home.
instead of according to football. You know, in the future, right? You know, if Cam and Mace can do it and do what they do well, why not? Let's see, man. I want to get to some of these nominees, if you don't mind, because I think we could really, really get into this. Actually, you know what? Do you want to start there, or do you want to start with some of these anniversaries? Because it is September 11th.
I like the anniversary.
Okay, we can start with the anniversaries, man. I have fond memories of, I mean, obviously it's a very, very traumatic day in the history of America. But I do remember leading up to the Blueprint being very excited about this album. This was the days of Napster, right? So I would hear, you know, this is a funny thing. I heard Izzo first because Jay performed that at the BET Awards, the first annual BET Awards, by the way. And that's when everybody came on stage.
Izzo?
Yep. Yeah, so I remember Greg Street playing Izzo. He played it over and over and over. But when I went to, you know, I'm just be honest, man. I mean, we all tried to hear songs early back in the Napster days when we had to wait for a whole hour to download a song. And the first song I heard that wasn't Izzo was Jigga That Nigga Jigga. And I was like, this song's cool. I liked it actually because I didn't hear anything else on the album, right? And then when September 11th hit, and I shouldn't say it in that way, but when September 11th came and, you know, the things that happened, transpired that morning, kind of wanted to do something to kind of get your mind away from the nonstop news coverage. And so I pop in Jay-Z's Blueprint, and I'm like, yo, this is the best project. At that time, I felt like that was the best project Jay had put out, at least at that time. You know what I'm saying? Because, mind you, Reasonable Doubt was still kind of folklorish, right? Volume 1 back then was viewed as a fall off. Volume 2 had the hits, but, you know, that probably was his classic at that moment. You know what I mean? Like, in that time period. Obviously, Reasonable Doubt's classic for different reasons. And then Volume 3 was kind of a drop-off, but it had hits on it. The Dynasty, it's kind of billed as a compilation, but it was kind of a drop-off in certain ways, too. But the Blueprint was like, oh, yeah, this is some of the best production that I heard Jay rhyme on. And I think that's what really stood out to me off first listen.
I think production of the album is stellar in terms of its sound. It sounds better than Reasonable Doubt. Rhyme-wise, Jay is just a different beast back then. Even like the 5-year gap, he's just a different type of animal on the mic in terms of how he approaches the thought process. But you want to know what's beautiful about the Blueprint to me is that, like, the guy who used to rap super, super fast had slowed his flow down and mastered his delivery to the point of him literally just talking to you on the mic. Like on the Blueprint mic, I feel like he's talking to us.
That's Conversational Jay.
Conversational Jay is the best version of Jay. So if you told me it was his best album, well, never on an album has he been more conversational consistently.
Beginning to end.
Like the guy that's on Volume 1, that guy conversationally is better, but it's not consistent throughout the whole album. You know what I'm saying?
I think he's a better song maker on the Blueprint too. And again, the production has a lot to do with that also.
But this is what I mean about being a master of his style. Well, we know Conversational Jay is the best Jay, but guess who else knows it?
He knows that. Of course he knows that. You know, I remember hearing You Don't Know for the first time, thinking that, you know what, this is the best beat Jay has ever rhymed on. And that's saying a lot, because at the time, Jay was known for just having great production choices, right? But the way he was talking on there, man, and the way he was talking on Heart of the City, like you said, it's conversational, Jay. He's
Yeah.
giving you game. What you eat don't make me shit. Stands out. Like, The Blueprint is one of those weird albums, and it was the first album that made me feel like an album doesn't have to be flawless from beginning to end to be a classic, right? I never subscribe. I mean, I used to subscribe to that notion that a classic is something that has zero skips. But The Blueprint obviously has a skip when it comes to either Ola Ovito and Jigga That Nigga Jigga, which aren't bad songs, but they don't fit in the scheme of everything that we're talking about that this album does at the highest level. But the highs are so high and the moment is so big that this album, it's a classic. It's what it is.
Oh, she is I mean, he's just masterful on this project. It's you want to know what it is, and this is what I mean about conversational, Jay. Like, he's not the lyricist, but the life that he's experienced now and the life that he's made it out of and the time in between to reflect, this is his reflective, introspective album, really. Not 444. You know, like, people try to seem like Jay popped up introspective on 444. It's like, no, he's been introspective and conversational. He just hasn't really put it all together in one album, like, and gave it that feel of it being that. But The Blueprint is his introspective album, Mike. That's
all the way down the song Cry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, no, that's Jay. You know what I'm saying? Like, the guy that I'm going to remember is on The Blueprint because he's talking about himself and talking about where he is and the things that he's seen and what he's done. That's what being introspective is.
I say this respectfully, man. For the people who deem 444 a classic, that's putting 444 on the level of The Blueprint, and that's laughable.
It's not even conversational.
It's just laughable, man.
Today, so far as conversational, Mike, it's not even conversational.
It's not. It's not. I mean, production's not. Songs are not. Like,
you know.
I was going to go to the super chat real quick. Mad Max says, LOL, when the last time the Niners won a Super Bowl. Jerry, it's been a minute.
A year after the dusty-ass Cowboys, but damn sure been the Super Bowl since then, unlike the Cowboys. How about that? 49ers actually been to a few Super Bowls since they actually won one.
But yeah, what were you about to say about The Blueprint? Because I see somebody here trolling talking about 444 is greater than The Blueprint. There's no way you can prove that.
Yeah, All I Need, Mike, was probably my favorite song on there because it's like the way he was talking on there. I was like, no, this is the guy. You know what I'm saying? That's the guy from Imaginary Player, but he's just kind of grown up. You know what I'm saying? Like when he said, can't even steal on a nigga, motherfuckers a sue.
I thought you knew. I mean, you know, I always like to play around with this notion too. If Big was alive and The Blueprint's being made, what song could you hear Biggie rhyming on The Blueprint? Jay Shore with the Super Chat says, conversational Jay is overrated. There's no depth or layers. It's all surface. Now, Scarface is conversation.
Scarface. But he's more reflective than Jay, is what I would tell you. He does more actual prospect than Jay. But that's like Scarface's style. Jay has a hustler style.
Jay's conversation is giving game. Right. That's what I take from it.
It's a hustler style. Like Scarface is not the message. That's not the game that he's breaking off. You know what I'm saying? Like Scarface, in a lot of ways, Mike talks about mental health. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So, what song could you hear Biggie on?
No, I was trying to think about that, Mike. You want to know? I could hear him on Girls, 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 actually. I could hear Big freaking that.
I could hear that.
But I'm also looking at it from the perspective, if Big hears that beat, they're not making that song Girls, Girls, Girls either. You know what I'm saying?
Right. What about Heart of the City?
No, because that's one of Jay's manifestos, in my opinion, and I believe in leaving manifestos alone. Like, you know how I feel about like there are certain Jay records where it's like, no, all I hear is Jay on there, and I'm cool, like never thinking about anybody but Jay being on the record. And The Heart of the City is definitely one of those records.
CJ Kid with the super chat says, which album is better introspective album, the Blueprint or the Black Album? I say the Blueprint. And see, when it comes to the Black Album, I think from a technical aspect, the Black Album hits every parameter you could ask for, right? Honestly, it has less skips than the Blueprint. But the Blueprint has this,
I don't agree.
Really? I think the only real skip on the Black Album, to me, is Moment of Clarity. And that's more of a production thing.
Justify My Thug isn't like that either, Mike.
It's not, you're right. But I kind of like Justify My Thug. And maybe I'm caping for Quick or something, but I actually like that record. But I understand. If somebody says that's a skippable record, I get that. But I think what the Black Album misses that the Blueprint has is soul and intangibles. Like, the Blueprint has some intangibles that his other albums just don't have. Reasonable Doubt included. I think Reasonable Doubt stands alone because he's rhyming on a level that we never hear him rhyme at again from end to end on Reasonable Doubt. I mean, he changed up his whole style and everything. But if somebody says that the Blueprint is Jay-Z's best album, I can't be mad at that.
No, you can't. I still say Reasonable Doubt.
Yeah, me too.
But the Blueprint, Mike, like, timing is everything. Like, it come like the timing of it was right. It came along at the right time. And you did have a lot of people taking shots at Jay. Like, the Prodigy thing was a real thing. Prodigy did go on The Source and tell Jay and say to Jay, I believe it's like when the war was on, you quiet like a bee. Like, you know what I'm saying?
J.O. Felony.
Right. There was little shots Nas took on I Am on We Will Survive, you know, and they claim to be New York's king. It ain't about that. Like, that's, and like, so Jay had been like, you know, the J.O. Felony stuff, you know, like, he had been taking some shots, Mike.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Blueprint was him coming out swinging at everybody.
And he took it all in. Yeah.
But yeah, he took it all in and he channeled it into great music. And that's what great artists do. You know, the 9 songs in 2 days.
And you know what? We talk our shit about Kendrick, and we're going to talk about him in this diss record that, you know, I guess leaked for whatever reason in a minute. But when we talk our shit about Kendrick and what our expectations are, it's because we lived through somebody like Jay making the Blueprint during that time that he made it when everybody was coming at his head. And this is for somebody who said they wanted to be the best, and when it came down to it, he defended that. And I'm talking about Jay. And we expect somebody like Kendrick, who says all of these things, to do similar things. So we're not beating down Kendrick. It's just a standard when it comes to that, you know, niggas wanting to be king.
Were you from our kings?
What's that, Coop? You cut out for a second.
I said we're used to hearing something from kings.
Yeah.
And we're used to the feel and the ethos being different. Like, the Blueprint feels very like, Mike, it's not a street album. It feels very Regal.
The ruler's back.
Like, he actually hovers above a lot of it. You know what I'm saying? He really, really does.
He took that position on that, you know, that he wanted to be in. And like you said, he rode that.
Right.
And the Blueprint is that moment.
He's talking about, please don't throw rocks at the throne. That's what I mean when the Blueprint has a Regal feel. He chose the ruler's back for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, he was in king position, quote unquote, and he was like, no, I'm going to behave and act like a king and make an album that a king should make.
I mean, for him to start the album off with the bars in these times, at least to me, it's a lot of motherfuckers trying to sound like Jay-Z. Like, that was very fitting for the moment. And for a lot of us who didn't grow up on Slick Rick, you would think that those bars were original because of how fitting that they were for the time.
Correct.
Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, I had the Blueprint on pre-order at Sam Goody. All malls were closed, so I had to wait until September 12th for my first listen. An unforgettable week, and for multiple reasons, most definitely. Got a couple more super chats. Peter Parks with a super chat says, "All I Need on the Blueprint is special."
I agree.
I think his bar work on All I Need is special. Like, that's the one song on that album where he's rapping his ass off. He does that a lot on the Blueprint too, but the songs don't come together like, like this one.
On All I like that's 97.
All I Need is 97 Hove?
Yeah.
Mad Max to the super chat says, "Oh, we talking about Dot and that old verse that leaked years ago that people say is AI. It was whack when it leaked in 2019, and it's whack now. I wouldn't expect anything less from you on that one, Mad Max." But yeah, I think All I Need is my favorite mic performance on the Blueprint. I know you're really big on Lyrical Exercise. Most people are. I don't know if I'm not huge on Lyrical Exercise because it's a bonus.
So, like, that's one of those songs for me that if I'm going through Jay's 20 records that I'm picking, Lyrical Exercise and All I Need are on there. That's the Jay shit that I like. That's what I'm saying. Is like the stuff that everybody else lauds him for. It's like that wouldn't make my list. Like Politics as Usual would make my list. The Evils would make my list. But like Lyrical Exercise and All I Need would be the joints that I would pull from the Blueprint just off like first glance and be like, no, give me that. Imaginary Players, Streets is Watching, A Million and One Questions, Where I'm From. That's why I like Volume 1 so much. You know what I really like personally? Come and Get Me from Volume 3 with the Timberland joint with the beat switch. I'll remove your roof, nigga, let the sun
shine in. Yeah.
Really a 36. What do you say? Really without a 36? Without the gun, I'm a 36, but I'm thin. But when the gat is tucked, I'm fat as fuck.
Yep. Yo. All right. Top 5 songs on the Blueprint.
All I Need, Heart of the City, You Don't Know, Lyrical Exercise. I mean, my kid, I probably have, Song Cry.
Song Cry is definitely.
I was about to pick The Takeover, but then I thought about Song Cry, and I'm like, see, The Takeover would be top 5 had he won the battle. How about that?
Takeover is still very impressive in the fact that it took Mobb Deep off the table, which is very, very difficult to do in that time. Prodigy specifically, I would say. And I say that respectfully, but I think that Prodigy was never the same after the Takeover. That door sample's crazy. Yeah, I don't know, man. Takeover makes my top 5 on that album. I'm gonna have to go You Don't Know, Heart of the City, Song Cry. I might go Takeover and All I Need, or Mama Loves Me. One of those two.
Oh, Mama Loves Me.
Yeah, Mama Loves Me is dope. Mad Max to the super chat says Big Sean's No More interview bars. He shot at Dot way better. That finally famous-ish, he said. Okay. CJ Kid with the super chat says, do you guys feel that Drake's upcoming album will be something like his Blueprint, in which he has a lot of people to address and will make the album that a king should, as Coop would say? I think it's an opportunity to do that. And I think when we look back at what Drake has done in recent time, he could use an album like The Blueprint right now. But based on the title, I don't know.
I think first of all, Drake to make something comparable to The Blueprint or Blueprint is not fair to Drake. And so I'm not expecting anything like that.
Yeah.
Am I expecting a good album? Yes.
I think we should expect. Do you think that we could possibly get his best album in 10 years?
Who, Drake?
Yeah.
That's a possibility. I would think that's a more feasible ask, in my opinion, yes.
Because for a lot of people, and thumbs up in the chat, we're about to get to some more topics, but for a lot of people, if you're reading This Is Too Late, is the last album moment for Drake. in the end. I know that's kind of a mixtape, but even Scorpion, I feel like, didn't really hit the mark all the way. I think Certified Lover Boy in the same way. Like, it had some songs that did some things, but I don't think these are projects that are heralded like, some of his other projects. I think the one that most of his fans gravitate to is Take Care or Nothing Was the Same. And I think the closest that he's gotten to that since is If You're Reading This Is Too Late. I mean, is that fair to say?
Absolutely. I mean, unequivocally.
Yeah.
That's easy money right there. But this is what I mean is it's like, well, I don't really expect him to make another classic album. I don't know. Classic albums don't grow on trees.
I think that he's a guy that's in position to be able to do those things with the resources and the ear of the mainstream media that he has. And he could work with damn near anybody that he wants to. With the exception of Pusha T, I would imagine. Mad Max with the super chat says, I was just listening to Lyrical Exercise. Gotta give Hov credit. He was nice back in his day. Is that what the youngsters are saying? Yeah, Jay was nice back in his day. You hear that, Jay? You got to answer to that.
No, this is what I'm saying, Mike.
You cut out real quick, Coop. Say that again.
That there's a generation 10 years older than us that it's like there's no moving like Rakim and KRS and Kane. Mm-hmm. And in our generation, there's no Rock, Nas, and Jay, and Big to a degree as well. And then there's a generation that's 10 years younger than us, Mike. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, I remember when Jay-Z made the Blueprint 3. That was kind of cool. And it's like, I should strangle you and throw you off the top bridge.
That's like us growing up and hearing Barry White make Practice What You Preach, and that's just all we know of him. Like, you know what I'm saying? At the time. So it is what it is.
I think that's a good analogy, but it's like knowing that Barry White.
Right. Even Stevie, because I mean, obviously my parents played the earlier Stevie stuff when I was growing up, but the Stevie stuff I heard on the radio was, these 3 words and stuff like that. So,
I mean, nobody was as great as long as Stevie was great, though.
No. Mad Max of the Super Chat says, Heart of the City, The Ruler's Back, Song Cry, You Don't Know, Lyrical Exercise, or Girls, Girls, Girls. And the takeover was cool, too. I love the format that he put Girls, Girls, Girls in. That's impressive. And the way that they say, or, the folklore of the way that he constructs his songs by not writing anything down and just going off of memory and stuff, that's very, very impressive to make a song like Girls, Girls, Girls in that fashion. If there's a Jay song that I think that he wrote down, it would be either that or Meet the Parents. But very impressive. Incredible lyricist. 36 Chambers with the super chat says, Drake said that this album is for everyone who ever hated his music or wasn't messing with his last 4 projects. Makes me think that he's coming on some rap-ish and coming with some heat for those critics. I hope so. This would be a great year to do it. It's wide open, Drake. Pause. You gonna say something, cool?
Yeah, I was about to say.
Oh, you went out for a second.
I think Girls, Girls, Girls is arguably the most complete record on the album. I'm a big fan of the song. And not just the construct of it, Mike. It's the nuance of the song. It's the fact that he had Slick Rick, Q-Tip, and Biz Markie actually, literally sing the hook. 3 of the most distinct hip-hop voices ever.
Whose idea do you think that was?
I don't know.
Okay. I have a theory.
I have a theory, too. His name is Jay-Z.
You think that's who put together Biz Markie, Q-Tip, and Slick Rick and thought of those voices? Mad Max with the super chat says,
who do you think?
Huh?
Who do you think?
I think that has Kanye West written all over it, but whatever.
Ooh.
I do. I mean, I could be wrong.
Hey, we'll be doing this Jay-Z Kanye station hit since you feel that way.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, ducking me, talking about, oh, yeah.
When are you good to do it?
Whenever you're ready.
What's Friday looking like?
I mean, you mind doing it late?
I don't mind.
Let's make it happen.
Okay. Okay.
Going down though.
Oh, it's going down. Mad Max with the super chat says, Views was the last one, Mike. 2016. Drake was everywhere. I don't think Views was like that. Views was more of an R&B type of thing. It was cool, had a little hits, but it wasn't anything that's like sustainable from a rap standpoint, I don't think.
I wouldn't necessarily call it cool either, Mike. It wasn't that good.
Yeah, I mean, what was on Views? Was that Hotline Bling? Nah, man. Mad Max with the super chat says, I'm not gonna lie, Blueprint 3 was the first rap album I bought in the 7th grade. I'm one of those people Coop talking about. Definitely. I mean, the Blueprint 3 is, I feel like, in my opinion, it's the last Jay-Z album in the form that we remember Jay-Z in. And that was what, 14 years ago? Yep, 14 years ago. Now, I don't like some of the memes that are going around. I don't know if you guys have seen this. They're showing pictures of like 9/11 in the towers and, you know, the plane. And they're saying that 9/11 marks the anniversary when Eminem killed Jay-Z on a track or something. They got like Eminem's face on the planes and Jay on the towers or whatever. Listen, man, I think that this whole notion that Jay got killed on Renegade is one of the most overblown things ever in hip-hop. But I think Ether did that. I don't even think, in my personal opinion, and I'm not just saying this because obviously I'm not a huge Eminem fan like that, I just never thought Renegade fit on that album. And if I was at the source at the time, that song and Jigga That Nigga Jigga would have been the reasons that I would have given the Blueprint 4.5 and not 5. I think the Renegade would have fit way better on the Blueprint 2. But as far as this album goes, I don't think that it fit in the way that, you know, I mean, it just didn't go with the soundscape. And the production just, I mean, just be honest, it's just not up to snuff with the rest of the album's production, in my opinion.
Okay, so here, let's say Eminem out-rapped Jay-Z on this track.
Right.
Which I actually think did happen.
I think so too.
To the degree that is being expressed on Ether, but I do think that he out-rapped him on this record. That's what I'm about to say, Mike. Well, this is where you do have some validity with some of your Eminem claims in terms of how stuff carries. Mike, I've told you I feel like Beanie Siegel has out-rapped Jay-Z on records before. Mm-hmm. And no one gives a damn.
Yeah. No one cares.
But if Eminem out-raps Jay-Z on a record, then that's a thing. And I don't know if I like that thing. You know?
Do you think that...
It's almost like waving that, see, look, we belong and he belongs and he's this, that because of this. And it's like, it's one of those things. It's like, oh no, anybody can walk in and steal the show. I'll give you an example. It's like, well, on the Flavor in Your Ear remix, I find Biggie Smalls and LL Cool J to be greater all-time rappers than Busta Rhymes. But Busta Rhymes steals the show.
I mean, anybody can get on a record and outdo somebody. Like, I said this the other day when somebody was talking about the Big L and Jay-Z thing that was on Stretch and Bobbito, that freestyle.
7-minute freestyle.
Yeah, like, L had the more impressive, you know what I'm saying, showing that day, but does that mean Big L's better than Jay? Like, nah, man. Like, and I think it's that LeBron Jamesism where it's like, if somebody gets out on the court with LeBron and outdoes him in that day, people go crazy. But it's like...
Well, here's what I'll tell you to that, Mike. Here's why albums matter in music is because, no, until Jay made Reasonable Doubt, Big L was better, Mike. You feel me?
Okay. I mean, that's fair. But yeah, but once you make that album, it's different.
Until Reasonable Doubt. Yeah, like listen to Big L in 1994, 1995, and listen to Jay in 1994 and 1995. No, Big L's a better rapper, Mike.
Leroy Green with the super chat says, Mike, he wrote Girls, Girls, Girls in his head. You're an artist, so you know what it's like when you hear an incredible beat. He went off of inspiration. And I said, that's incredible.
It's one of his best performances from a writer who doesn't write standpoint. Absolutely.
Yeah, from a contextual standpoint and being able to build a record like that, those are concept levels that we look for from like Nas, Ghost, or Scarface, you know? And he was able to do that and did it flawlessly and did it on a single. Esquire with the super chat says, not expecting another classic from Drake when he hasn't made one in a decade. Proves y'all rightfully hold Kendrick to a higher standard than Drake. We definitely hold Kendrick to a higher standard. I think we hold Kendrick to a higher standard than damn near everybody that's active.
Yes, where have you been? And look at how he's been treated. Yeah. The expectations have been given because of the treatment received.
Exactly. AB Studios of the Super Chat says, fun fact, before Jay got the Kanye beat to record the Blueprint, Jay had just made 20 Bag Shorty, a Jadakiss diss. That record should have been included. Never heard of that record. 007.
Nigga, ass kiss that record.
007 with the $20 super chat showing love. He says the Blueprint has 15 tracks and 1/3 of the album can be skipped. No, Mike named like 5 tracks that he doesn't care for. Don't forget Stillmatic happened from Standalone or what current on the timeline. I question the classic status. Should one question the classic status of the Blueprint because of, I'm just going to keep it real. I'll say 3 skippable tracks. I think Ola Ovito is a good song. I think it's out of place on that album as well.
I like the record overall.
I do too. I don't like the record on that album. I think the one that we could honestly say is just a straight up skip is Jigga That Nigga Jigga.
How about this? Here's the thing about Ovito. That's a record that you put lyrical exercise on the album and not part of the bonus and flip those around, it feels different to me.
I think where Jay fell short on the Blueprint was trying to make a hit. And he tried to force a hit with Ola Ovito and Jigga That Nigga Jigga. And I think even including Eminem on Renegade was a move to sell records. You know what I mean? Because Eminem is coming off of the Marshall Mathers LP, selling more records than everybody. He's trying to get Eminem's fan base in, and I think that was a move to do that as well. I don't think he believed in the You Don't Knows at that time. That's why those songs weren't singles. Heart of the City should have been a single. I think he finally listened to the people and made Song Cry a single. But I think where that album falls short is the fact that he didn't feel like he had that hit record on there.
And the fact, about this, like Beanie Siegel should have been on this album.
Exactly.
Like, imagine this. Imagine Beanie Siegel, Mama.
Oh, Mama Loves Me. Imagine Beanie Siegel. Well, imagine if they put Once Again It's On this album instead of Renegade.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I do know what you're saying.
Jay Short with the super chat says, since Jay isn't putting out music, I wonder why he hasn't put out a Lost Tapes. Considering how polished his albums are, it may help his GOAT argument. I don't think he has any Lost Tapes. At least not enough to put out, you know what I'm saying, a full project. I think he was recording at the time and pretty much put out everything that was good enough to go out. And if there are some lost stuff, it probably isn't good enough to be heard, you know? What do you think?
It go both ways.
Peter Parks with the super chat says, Drake's views was uneven, if you ask me. Had some good stuff on it, though. Mad Max with the super chat says, the myth of M killing Jay is just a myth. I remember Jay lines more than M's. Got my back to the wall, ashy knuckles. I mean, even that whole line about, you know, do you fools listen to music or do you skim through it? I feel like it's probably one of the most memorable lines on that whole song. Mad Max also with the super chat says, Jay's not going to put a Lost Tapes out because his rival already did that. He don't want it to look like he's biting. Nas, he already got Biggie biting stuff. Okay. I got a couple more super chats, and we can move on to the next topic. I didn't know we were going to spend that much time on this, but that's, got to give the classic albums some run.
It's the blue. Oh
It,
no, it's the blueprint. I'm okay with it.
it is the blueprint. Esquire with the super chat says, I mentioned that because in recent shows, y'all have been adamant that Drake should be ranked higher than Kendrick based on quality, consistency of output. Um,
Where we said that outside of albums, lyrics, and storytelling, it would weigh in Drake's favor, and I think that was an accurate assessment.
I would like to explore that real fast.
Flip our words. I know what we said, fam. We said lyrics, albums, storytelling, Kendrick.
Mm-hmm.
Rest Drake. What you have? You want to have Mike? You want to have a longevity conversation? You want to have a hit conversation? You want to have a hook conversation? You want to have a versatility conversation when the nigga can sing? Remember, you getting bodied by a singer nigga.
And you got a guy who's battle tested. So, yeah, I mean, listen.
I never thought I would live in a world, Mike. Like, you have to understand, I never thought I would live in a world, because I think Good Kid, Mad City came out when I was, like, right turning 30. Or the song started dropping when I was 30. I never thought I would be the guy that, like, loved Good Kid, Mad City and Kendrick. I never thought I would be in a place where I would even be in a position to talk about Drake being better than Kendrick.
I never thought that either. And I remember when you wrote that article around Damn Time, you were talking about Kendrick being top 10 all time, and he was on that trajectory. I guess at that time, in the pace that he was on, from like Section 80 to Good Kid, Mad City to Pimp a Butterfly, and then to Damn, and even Untitled, I don't think that we thought there was going to be a dry period, at least not right around the corner. And there's one thing that, he took that 5 year off, but no features really to think of. And some of the stuff that he's doing with, Baby Keem just isn't good. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's...
came into this because it's the fact that the stuff he's been doing has not been good.
No, but I'm just talking about the hillbilly stuff. Like, that stuff is not good.
Half the stuff wasn't slapping like that either, Mike. That's what I'm saying.
Right. So that brings Drake's consistency into question, where it's like it makes him look even greater in the comparison. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to respect it.
Right, because this is what I mean. It's like, well, how about this? Drake still delivers on his promise from time to time still, like with a Way Too Sexy, even though you feel like that's Future and Thug song. Like, no. They got Drake name on it for a reason, though.
Well, I could play the same game when it comes to Poetic Justice. That's more of Drake's song than it is Kendrick. So, we could do that with a lot of people.
Yep.
Yeah. CJ Kidd with the super chat says, Esquire, I think that they mean just output of music in general. Esquire with another super chat says, no need to downplay M on Renegade. Pun and Cannabis got comparable props for out-rapping Nas on John Blaze and Desperado, but we don't discredit them. No one runs around talking about Cannabis killed Nas on the record or Pun killed Nas, because I like Nas's verse better on John Blaze, personally.
What, over Pun?
I do.
I think it's extremely cool. I've always thought Pun does the even if I stutter, I will still I was like, okay. I was like, go ahead and give it to you.
No, he killed it.
I would tell you Pun, but it's like, hair. But I feel you. I told you, that's why John Blaze drops off after those first two verses, because those first two verses are stellar.
Because when we get into that quality over quantity argument, when you take that 5 year break and you drop something that's not that level of quality that we're used to, that argument kind of goes out the window. Now, if he would have came back 5 years and dropped something that was on the level of a Damn, To Pimp a Butterfly, or Good Kid, Mad City, then we could have that argument. But I think you guys know that Mr. Morale is not on the level of any of his other efforts, right? So what does it say if you take a 5 year break, 5 year hiatus, and you come back and you drop something that would probably be your your lowest ranked album from a quality standpoint. Then what does that say? Do we say that person's falling off, or do we not? You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, we could say the same thing about Travis. In my personal opinion, I think that Utopia got some moments. That shit is clearly last on his catalog based on everything I've heard.
Yeah.
It's an easy last.
Yeah.
And these guys are making their... Yeah, I mean, these guys are making their weakest efforts in a time when things are wide open. Like, you don't think people said this about Eric B. and Rakim when they dropped
Don't Sweat
the Technique? It's real. That shit's not paid in full. It's not Let the Rhythm Hit 'em, and it's not Follow the Leader. It's just not.
It's not.
And when you see that stuff going, it's kind of the beginning of the end.
Beats, rhymes, and life.
Yeah. Mad Max with the super chat says, I want to have a quote conversation because Drake got more quotes than Dot too.
I'd have more. That's what I mean. He checks a lot of boxes, Mike.
He does.
And he ain't scared to get in the ring and box.
He's not. I mean, the fact that he even went after somebody like a Pusha T, I mean, that's admirable anyway.
Always give him points for trying, Mike.
No, for sure. For sure. I guess with that being said, did you hear about this leaked verse where Kendrick was just going wild on Jay Electronica, French Montana, and Big Sean?
He don't want no parts of Jay Electronica, but, whatever. The rest of it is just like, I look at levels, so I'm just like, you said, what the Jay Electronica? It's like, oh, no, Mike, I get on Jay Electronica about not recording, not about, mic skills. Mm-mm.
Why do you think that there's this competitive fervor between Kendrick and Big Sean?
I don't know, but he probably heard Jay Electronica's Control verse, and that'll scare me into writing some shit about somebody, too, because he had the better verse than you on your record.
Well, what Jay Electronica said was he felt like his verse and Sean's verse was better than Kendrick's verse.
I agree to a degree. Definitely, Jay Electronica's verse is clearly better. The Big Sean, I don't know. The Big pretty dope, too.
Why don't you think that they put, because this was supposed to be like right before Damn. Why do you think that this record or this verse got scrapped?
Because he has a whole team behind him. And
even once the leak came out again, any platform that actually posted this, it got scrapped.
Bro, on you.
Well, is it dodging smoke or is it just good business?
Is it good business to dodge smoke in this business where it's built off of angst? Let's go back to our first conversation about the blueprint. The brilliance came from a place of angst that Jay was feeling about everybody taking shots at him for what he felt like was 2 or 3 years, while he was just, doing what hustlers do, coming, taking territory, taking over. You know what I'm saying? He's like, no, this is what I do. I do this in the streets and rap. And so, but he channeled that into something. So it's like all that shit Kendrick be talking hasn't channeled into anything, Mike.
There's another person that I want to talk about when we talk about the crown and folks who talk about being the king of rap. And this is something that Kendrick has done over and over. T.I. was doing that too when it came to this King of the South thing. But he was always ready to defend that at any given moment. Any given moment. And when you talk that talk about being the king of hip-hop and this and that, there are going to be some people to challenge that. But you can't not respond to those challenges.
Hey, Mike, since we're just having a little quick ATL sidebar, which I love to do, I think people forget. Mike, you remember I'm Illy?
Yeah.
Remember Paper Trail?
Yeah.
A lot of that had to do because the town was buzzing because Shawty Lo was talking about Tip.
Yeah. What's up? What's happening?
Tip took that out. I'm Illy. What's up? What's happening? So a lot of the low-key shit that Tip is talking on that album, and the reason that he's rapping like that is because he like, nah, this my city, and I'm going to go prove it wherever I need to go prove it, including on record.
I think T.I. was ready to prove that he was the best rapper out of the South, period, at that point. You know what I mean? Like, he said the King of the South thing, and I think just in general, I think he would have defended his post on any level. But anybody who said anything, he was coming at him. Now, granted, it looks like from the outsider's optics that he was ducking Ludacris. And happy birthday to Ludacris, by the way. It's Ludacris' birthday today. But I think what he did with the Luda situation, he understood Luda was just too much, way bigger than him at the time. And he wasn't going to win that one on the political side of things. So he waited until he got to a level where it was time to be able to go at somebody like Luda. And I think he respected Luda's skill set too.
He waited till... I like it when battles are even.
Mm-hmm.
He waited till things were even. That's what he
Because
did.
what would have happened if he would have came out and came at Luda during trap music? Luda would have just been like, man, you're not big enough to come at me. That would have been the battle.
Straight up.
Yeah.
It would have been it would have played different in Atlanta, but yes.
I mean, he still kind of did that anyway when he was like, you worth a couple $100,000 and I'm worth millions, you know.
Yeah.
Nobody think about you and your beef ain't legit.
Still tried to big dog him.
Yeah, he big dogged him. And I think that's why Tip waited, you know what I mean? Because really, for the people who don't know, this has been brewing since like,
early.
Yeah, since like right after I'm Serious, if not during that time, you know?
Tip feeling like Luda was important.
What's that?
Like,
you were cutting out for a second.
Didn't that have something to do with like Tip feeling like Luda wasn't supporting, like when he was like the DJ, like a lot of the Atlanta stuff like he should? Didn't that where some of that came from?
I think it was that, and there's this story about I-20 calling in and I guess battling T.I. on the phone while Luda was still on the radio. And I think that T.I., if I can remember correctly, said something about him not getting a fair shake in that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Tip. I've heard the Tip.
We should have asked Nick Love about some of that stuff. Yeah. We can still do that. Jay Short with the Super Chat says, the genius of Drake is not being good at anything. You can't pin him to a genre and hold him into a standard. Can't judge him as a rapper. He's an artist. I think that's a fair assessment. CJ Kidd with the Super Chat says, fun fact, Nas had to change his verse after hearing Pun's verse. Who said that? Fat Joe?
I mean, it is Fat Joe's record, so there's probably a chance that Pun got hands on the track first.
Yeah. Jermaine Johnson with the Super Chat says, Jay had the best verse on Renegade. Couldn't tell me I wasn't grown up, especially on nights when I brought something home to quiet my stomach rumbling. What? That just hits different. You know what? I ain't mad at that. And I think when people talk about who had the better verse on Renegade, people are talking about the sonics and how it sounded and the flow and how it came across. But if you want to break down the lyrics and just read the lyrics word for word, it might not be as lopsided as people make it seem to be.
Eminem out-rapped them by a whole lot. Wasn't. Never was.
Dot with the Super Chat says, Kendrick knows not to play with Sean. Is that what that generation feels? They feel like Big Sean will give Kendrick the business? Esquire with the Super Chat says, the legacy of Follow the Leader is greater than the actual album. Outside of Follow the Leader, Microphone Fiend, Lyrics of Fury, we don't talk about any other records. Those are big ones, man.
First of all, that's the greatest start to a rap album ever.
I think it is. I was just thinking about that when he was rattling those off.
Yeah, so we're clear, the 3 songs you're naming off is the best start off to a rap album ever. But, okay, I like doing it with the R too, Mike.
I love doing it with the R.
Yeah, that's my shit. That's the shit I actually ride to.
Jay Short with the Super Chat says, Drake was the first black artist who didn't require to be a great rapper, singer, beatmaker, musician, or dancer. we can all see ourselves as Drake.
That wasn't that was not
Mad Max with the super chat says, because deep down Kendrick knows that Sean is his peer. Sean is like Sean Porter or Paul Pierce or Jimmy Butler, a guy who's not a superstar, but when they match up with superstars, then they get busy for some reason. I can see that, because even when Drake's on a record with Big Sean, Drake steps it up. I don't know what it is, Coop. I don't know if it's the Kanye connection. I always got to bring Kanye in the conversation. He's like the sun in the universe for that generation. But it's like when Sean's involved, these guys take it personal or something.
Why are they so mad at the hell is Big Sean? Anybody? This shit don't even make no sense.
I don't know, man. I mean, even did you hear the bars that Kendrick was throwing at him about something along the lines about people more interested about who you dating and stuff like that? Like, I'm like, this is personal. Like,
why are you mad that his woman is so fine?
The hate. Mad Max with the super chat says, Sean has a unique rhyme style. He is it's punchline rapper, so he's kind of awkward. And when when he raps next to Dot, he gives Dot trouble, and Dot knows that. So it's a styles make fights type of thing, huh?
Very probably.
Mad Max also with the super chat says, Sean was also insecure about his career and always wanted to prove himself against Dot in particular, because I think Sean thinks that Dot is a media-made artist. Well, it's interesting because Wale was always the one that was vocal about some of those things, and they never really, I guess, came at Wale on the record in that way. But somehow Sean seems to get all of this ammo.
Wale was under Ross's umbrella for a while. That's a nice shield to have because you're plugged up to a lot of connections when you plug to Ross.
Yeah.
So that had something to do with it. Mike, it's hard to fly solo in this game.
It is. That's why we got to give our respects to LL Cool J. I know he had the Def Jam thing going, but as far as like, not really having a crew, he's been that solo guy from beginning to always.
Going to Death Row, big thing, Mike, has been a solo mission.
Oh, say that again? You cutting out for a second.
I said Tupac going to Death Row was such a big deal because it had been a solo mission. Mike.
You're right. You know
what I'm saying? Like Nas outside of that brief time with the firm, Mike, it's been a solo mission. There has not been a crew.
You're right. And I think even though Nas was a solo mission, the fact that AZ was on Life is a Bitch, it's like, okay, we knew that he had a guy like AZ in his corner somewhere. But with L, it was never anybody really.
He had Run DMC, but not like, I feel you. But Run DMC and the Beastie Boys and Slick Rick were like, in the building.
Public Enemy was around. But you know what? We never thought about LL making a song with Public Enemy or even thinking that LL's going to be on a Public Enemy or Slick Rick album or even a Run DMC album.
I mean, rap was just more competitive than Mike, even within your own label, so it didn't really work like that.
Yeah.
Like part of why the symphony is so special, Mike, because it's like, you don't even hear guys from within their own camp getting together and doing songs like that around that time. Like, we literally got Self-Destruction all in the same gang. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a deal.
It was no collaborating to the level that we know now back then.
Right. I can go back and look at the few records that Cool G Rap and Kane are on, like with the Heavy D joint, No Cussing.
Mm-hmm.
And the symphony, and it's like, no, the fact that we got like a few records, like I think it's 3. I can't remember the name of the other songs. I feel like G-Rap and Kane are on another song around that late 80s, early 90s.
You talking about the Raw remix?
Yes, there we go.
Okay.
Yes, so G-Rap got Kane on the Raw remix. Yeah, that's right.
Dot with the super chat says, Sean don't get his credit. He held his own with Drake, Kendrick in the era while dominating the radio and having 3 straight albums that sold over 100,000. Huh. So maybe they view Sean as more of a contemporary and competitor than many people do. Because he did the numbers, he got the hits, he had radio, and he can rhyme.
You want to know what? I can't front as much as I don't believe I'm about to say this. Timestamp this. Kanye was right about something. The whole ass thing. I think that took some of the seriousness for some people about Sean's actual mic skills. Because it's like, no, this is the guy that's rapping on Mercy next to in 2 Chainz, and Kanye, he can rap.
Yeah. LP with the super chat says, am I looking too into the fact that Hit has liked the comments and reposted the Nas post? Are we sure it's an actual album? Hit cool with it being the last? We're going to talk about that in a second. Do you want to go there now, or? Might as well.
What else we got?
Well, we're gonna talk about LeBron's top 5, the Lyricist of the Year, nominees. What were you gonna say?
I want to talk about the Nick Love thing and the responses I've been getting.
Okay, you want to go there first before we talk about this Nas finale?
Yes.
Okay, let me get through the super chats and then we'll get to that real quick, because I think we got a lot. Mad Max of the super chat says Sean looks at Kendrick and says to himself, "He's no better than me," and Wale, but he gets necked. Pause. So that's why they're competitive with each other. I can see that. Because when you look at the accomplishments, man, like, Sean ain't too far off as far as, like, the hits. Mad Max also says with the super chat, and yeah, I think that Sean is in a battle with Cook Dot. Let Sean rattle off some of those clever punchlines on Dot. Esquire with the super chat says, it's a fact. Nas' original John Blaze verse is on the internet with a different beat. Even Nas admits that he had to change his verse. Let's see. LP with the super chat says nobody cares that QM said that he wrote for Big Sean. Oh, Quentin Miller. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, Quentin Miller is the ghost of everybody right now. Firebird Phoenix with the super chat says M had a lot of theater in those Renegade verses. He stood out, but I wouldn't say he murdered. But when Esco said it, I was behind him. Right. That's where all of this comes from. Because when the album dropped on September 11, 2001, nobody was saying that. Nobody. 007 with the super chat says, I respect the spitters, Sean, Drake, and Kendrick in a true cipher. Sean shines just being honest. Can't even include Drake because bar for bar, he won't hang. I love the Sean love that's going on right now. Mad Max with the super chat says Quentin Miller wrote for Big Sean in the same fashion that he wrote for Nas. Hooks and flows. He ain't write no verse for Sean. I've heard Quentin Miller rhyme. Sean rap patterns are way different. Astute assessment there. And Esquire with the super chat says Sean is a competitor, and I can rap with the best of them. Drake feud goes back to the blog era where people thought that Drake stole his flow. See, Sean's made it. Oh, I do remember that narrative back then where people felt like Drake was stealing Sean's flow. Okay. I love the history that's going on. We're talking about recent history, but it's still historical stuff. But yes, you wanted to talk about some of the reactions to our Nick Love interview that just got posted this Saturday. It's on the YouTube channel. Check it out.
Yes, it's okay for I have different opinions. Like some of the backlash that we received and to insinuate that Nick Love doesn't know a lot about hip hop, it's just going too far. He just has a different aesthetic musical taste than you do. And this is what I'm saying, Mike. I don't think people understand. Guys like you and I down here are rarities. Most people from our age bracket, Mike, that are from down here in Atlanta, like East Side where Nick is from, where I'm from, or West Side where you're from, where T.I. is from, Mike, Isn't that more of the ethos than people outside of Atlanta really realize?
Oh no, for real. And so a lot of the stuff that Nick was saying, I didn't particularly agree with 100% when it came to like Nas being boring and hating Illmatic. But I get it because I was there, and Nick's slightly older than us, so I remember going to school with people who weren't really feeling certain things. He did surprise me though when he said he was fucking with 36 Chambers though, because that was the album that I felt weird for listening to because nobody in my school really was rocking with Wu-Tang like that because of the vocabulary and all of that.
Right, and so I want people to understand. Nick Love is from Atlanta, like born and raised East Side Atlanta. That is an ethos down here, and it's okay. And here's why it's okay. Like, you seen Kendrick's top 25 albums, Mike?
Yeah, I seen it.
Every damn DJ Quick project made it. It's gonna be the only time you see every DJ Quick project made it. But Kendrick from Compton.
Yeah.
Where's Quick from?
Compton.
He grew up on Quick.
It's different, man, when you come from a city and like in that Nick Love interview when he brought up June Dog, like I got excited. Like those are records and artists that they hit your childhood and your neighborhood. It's different, man. Like, yeah, I respect all of the stuff that comes from other places, but home is always gonna be home.
Yeah, Michael was in tag team. It came out, lived up from my mom's homegirl car. Memorial Drive, like I'll never forget like stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
You said tag team, you broke up for a second.
Yeah, tag team, like Whoop, there it is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, one of the niggas lived right up the street from my mom homegirl Tara house. Like when the shit dropped, he was still like out in the streets going up and down Memorial Drive doing his thing. You know what I'm saying? Like
unforgettable stuff.
Yeah, town shit though. And it's like people need to understand it's like, no, we got a town just like New York got a town. Just like Compton, LA, Inglewood got it. No, it's like and some
Detroit,
niggas only Mike, Houston is notorious for this. Mike, I know niggas that wouldn't listen to shit when we was growing up unless it was chopped and screwed. It's like, did they chop and screw that? It's like, no. It's I ain't trying to hear that shit. It's
but
like,
I will say this though, Coop. I think when New Yorkers do it, it comes across as New York bias. When we all have our bias to our, specific regions and homes. So, I think that the difference is, the New York bias seems to have a lot more power than everybody else's bias. You know what I mean?
Right. But we're biased too. Like,
yeah.
Give it Southern bias. Pimp C Southern bias.
Oh yeah. I say it all the time, man. Project Pat, I am biased when it comes to Pat.
I am.
It's not a lot of people that I'm just gonna flat out. I mean, I'll admit certain people are better lyricists than Pat, but if it gets to splitting hairs, like, nah, you're not going to win that one with me.
I'm biased. Like you already know. It's like, nope. I was like, I don't want to hear that. Cut that trapper die on. Be quiet.
See, it was good to hear from somebody who was there and actually working that Jeezy project and being a part of that movement. Because to me, even though I'm not that big of a Jeezy fan, even though there's some songs on Trap or Die and Thug Motivation 101 that I love, I will say that was probably the most impressive movement that I had ever seen in this city, specifically.
So, I'm from East End. I'm taking up for Tip's trap music with Nick Love, who's taking up for GD 101. And I'm like, well, you're biased because you were there. And what did he look at me and say? He said, I am.
Yeah.
And like he was like, and then nigga, what? Like, so it's like
just like somebody from Queensbridge would probably be biased towards Illmatic and the Infamous. It is. Okay.
Like, how about this, Mike? Like, I know for a fact, like, when I talk to Taj is biased when it comes to Prodigy. It's like, no. She like, I got him up here. I'm like, we from Queens.
And you know what? For a long time, and even doing this show and, doing According to Hip Hop and writing and all of that stuff, I had to look at myself and be like, look, am I holding these Outkast albums too high? And even the fact that I am critical of Andre 3000 now is kind of a reaction of me in media trying not to be biased. Like, let me take my, like what I was raised on out of it and look at it from the outside looking in,
Like, how about this, Mike? Even in my friend circles, Dan, And this is what I mean. People understand, and I think some of our followers and fans have it confused. So I have to clarify, Mike. You and I are that our like all that other shit. He listened to that New York shit, and that like our dudes are just like your dudes. They really don't be rocking with a lot of the other stuff like that. So a lot of the stuff, like I don't know a dude down here in Atlanta that loves Prodigy the way I do. Mike, do you?
I don't. I'm gonna keep it real. I don't.
Correct. So it's like when I talk about P down here, my niggas be looking at me like, for real, cool? I'd be like, yeah, I love him the way I love Dre and Big Boy.
And I'm like that with Ghostface. When I found a Ghostface fan, I found a friend.
Right. And so that's why a lot of the New York dudes down here have always rocked with me, is because it's like, oh no, I'm a fan of some of the same people they're a fan of.
Right.
It's not like that for most niggas down here from the east side or the west side of Atlanta like we are. And so I think our audience is like what Nick Love is more with the city ethos than what you pull up on According to Hip Hop and see. But that's why I wanted him to come on and want more Atlanta artists to come on, because it's like, I don't think, in my opinion, that we've been doing Atlanta total justice, Mike. You know what I'm saying? Like you and I, it's like we need to let these audiences outside of Atlanta see what Atlanta really sees, thinks, and feels.
I think that's a good idea, and I think you're right.
And Nick just brought that to the table. Anybody that watches this show knows that I think Nas is the greatest MC of all time. So, of course, I don't agree with his sentiments, but he's allowed to have his sentiments.
And, you know, he's a very accomplished individual in this industry, and, you know, we would be fools to not listen to his perspective. He's an insider.
And Mike, and I also want to remind you that our started because you used to call Nas's projects boring. Thousands.
I did say that some of the production choices were boring in the 2000s. And I think that I also realized, though, doing this show, that a lot of my narratives on some of Nas's projects were unfair. And I think I was listening to the media, which was clearly skewed, more so than I was listening to my own ears sometimes. And I think that I was judging his highlights versus, you know, when he was just making music at a certain level. I was judging everything by his biggest moments. And if you're not going to do that with everybody, that's just not fair. Jadarion in the Super Chat says, any thoughts on Kane's Drink Champs interview? I gotta watch that, and we could talk about that Wednesday. Y'all what are some of the things that Kane said?
I mean, Kane's a walking, you know what I'm saying? That's, I want to see that. That might be the late night dig.
No, for real. Thumbs up in the chat, y'all. We got a lot of people in here. Mad Max with the Super Chat says, the only rapper I heard from that Class clearly out-rapped Sean on a record was Cole on FNL. Last track, and Drake definitely stole Sean's style. People forget that Sean was the most poppin' after Drake for a minute. Cole seems to be able to get everybody on the feature. And when I say get him, I mean, like, you know, out-rap them.
Get
Is Cole the best rapper of his era?
Starting to be so happy.
I think the only thing that he's missing is that album that, you know, I guess people expect from him based on his skill set. But when you really look at it, for the people who rock with him and his fan base, he has made that album a few times over.
He hasn't made that album a few times over. He's made that album once with Forest Hills Drive. He just needs to do it one more time at a slightly higher clip.
You don't think that his audience really feels like Born Sinner is that level?
It's not.
Okay.
I know what
CJ Kid with the Super Chat says, the chat says that Nick Love was doing the Tootsie Roll in 94.
Disrespect.
What?
Y'all watch the interview. It's actually a great interview.
It is a great interview, man. I think that we did a pretty good job, if I do say so myself, man. And the interview that you did with Love Jesse was great, too. People got to check that one out also.
Yeah, no, we had a good time. We're looking forward to more Atlanta soon so that we can start, you know, repping our city a little bit more, but also letting people know, you know, the people in the city that's really made it move. Like, Mike, the Remy event that I just helped put together at the job, like, you know, when I told one of the people I was talking to that was one of the influencers in the event, it's like, yeah, we just interviewed Nick Love. And she was like, oh, Nick, that's my guy. That's what I mean. It's like, you have to be down here.
Mm-hmm.
Just be up there to understand some things. How many times do people in our chat from New York be like, well, Coop, you and Mike ain't up here, so y'all don't understand who such and such. And it's like, okay, fair. It's the same thing we saying back to y'all, though.
Yeah, Nick loves good people, man. Shout out to him for doing the interview.
Yeah, great people.
Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, I've never been a big Sean fan. He has good moments, but what messes his overall batting average is that he has a lot of terrible bars too. A lot. I feel like that, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Coop, but is that how you feel about Big Sean?
No.
That's not? Okay. You paused for a minute. Jay Short.
I was just processing like all that he was saying in my mind, and like my reply to that is no.
Okay. Jay Short with the super chat says, I don't agree with you guys on this. Guys from everywhere come out of here and call Cali and sell out shows. This seems like it's personal between New York and ATL. Mad Max with the super chat says, and Saha, he has been packing Sean up too. Sean and him got a problem too. Saha said it on an interview. Sean don't like him because Saha be having better rap verses every time they on the track. Sean hates it. I mean, Saha's just the better lyricist. I mean, listen, and I'm not saying that as a dig on Sean because I think Sean probably makes better hit records than Saha. But there's not a lot of people that get on the track and out-rap Saha in his generation. I I think that's just what it is. I don't think that many people in Saha's generation approach 16 bars in the way that he does.
Okay.
Is that fair to say?
It's not a thing between New York and Atlanta. I told you, like, I love New York rap. Your sports teams, they all suck. I hope the Jets lose tonight, too, even though they're New Jersey. Hope all your teams lose. Yankees
So wait a minute. Are New Yorkers Jets fans now? I thought it was all about the Giants.
Oh, the Giants definitely suck.
Yeah. That was embarrassing.
More of a Yankees and Mets thing. I'm a Braves fan. But all your sports teams suck, but that has nothing to do with rap. Oh, God, don't get me started on the Knicks. The Knicks have turned into the Hawks. That's how bad the Knicks are.
Well, you know what? I root for the Knicks. I want the Knicks to be good.
Eastern Conference Finals more recently than the Knicks have. Their teams suck. But as far as rap goes, we're very fair loving. And a lot of people down here have gotten a lot of love. Like, you know, I think, and this is something true that Nick said too, and I realized this. In the Blueprint, Mike, it's coincidental that we're talking about this. Nick Love brought up the Blueprint. And I think the Blueprint might be the album because of the soulful feel to it. More Southerners are attracted to Jay's style more than Nas's.
Yeah.
Because I think it feels closer to Pimp C and some of the ethos down here, the hustler talk of it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know what? This is what Nick also said. He hates Reasonable Doubt, right? So I think once the flow slowed down and the production was a little different, like you said, more Southerners are going to connect with that, Jay.
Correct.
Whereas Reasonable Doubt is very East Coast centric.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mad Max with the super chat says Jay Short's gonna just sold out Barclays in Brooklyn. Selling out shows can't be the bar we measuring biasness by. Come on now. That's true, because Gunna just went up to Barclay and sold out. That was like 2 days ago.
Mad Max is right once a show. There it was.
Mad Max has actually been on point today.
No, Mike, don't get.
Speaking of hometown biases, right? Are you surprised that LeBron James gave his top 5 hip hop albums, and it was The Chronic, Doggy Style, The Black Album, Life After Death, and It Was Written?
No East 1999?
No East 1999.
That's like
that's like no Southern Playlistic here, right?
Like it's like, but you know, to stay within the realm of the conversation, it's like I always told people, Illmatic made me want to rap. Southern Playalistic Cadillac music made me believe that I could.
Oh yeah, it's different. I mean, honestly, man, I remember the first time I saw Ludacris on like BET with What's Your Fantasy, and I remember the whole independent run. I mean, you were working at the record store when they had to sign the consignment sheet. When this man made it, we were all happy because we saw the whole grind, we saw the whole process, and it made it real. Like what Jay said on Mama Loves Me, Blueprint plug again. Jazz made me believe this shit was real. And that's real. Like when you see somebody who was like right there and was a regular dude, you know, everybody's a regular dude, but you know what I mean? Was like just a regular person that you dap it up at a concert and they become a superstar. It's like, yo, this shit is real.
I don't believe I'm bringing it up twice in an episode. My mom, friend Tara, went to try with Big Boy when he was like a sophomore and she was a senior. That's what I mean. It's like, so when Players Ball is coming out and all that stuff, and I'm coming back to Atlanta, she like, oh, that's that little, you know what I mean? And it's like, damn, they made it.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like they platinum now and all over the radio and all over the TV screen. It's like, yeah, that's different when it's coming from your hometown, when your home team and like people who you know up the way went to school with them and like, you know what I'm saying?
And you've seen the whole thing. 007 with the super chat says GETS, Jets, Jets, Jets. Queens get the money. I'm rooting for the Jets tonight. I need Wilson to get his yards.
Who are they playing?
They are playing Buffalo tonight, actually.
No, they about to lose.
Shout out to Benny.
Yeah, I'm about to say shout out to Grizel.
Yeah, for real. Mad Max in the super chat says, shout out to Kane, one of my favorite rappers, period. Kane let it be known that J. Cole is the best rapper of his generation, and Kane, in my opinion, is the most talented MC ever. I'm okay with that.
We've had that conversation, Mike, that like, you know, top to bottom Kane.
I'm okay with that. Talent? Yeah.
None of the guys that can rap like that can dance like that, Mike. Fuck what you heard.
And perform like that on top of it. Like, yeah.
Mike, Ain't No Half Steppin' is a one-of-one record. He showed his ass for 4 verses, and it's a big hit single. And when I mean he showed his ass, it's like, no, you can't rap that well.
Rap a step up to me. They want to get some. Y'all gonna have me listening to Kane tonight after we do the show.
Ain't No Half Steppin' every week for like, I just can't.
Jay Shaw with the super chat says, this Cold War between New York and ATL is killing hip hop. It's a contest based on popularity and being a hater and not leading to great music. I don't think it's a Cold War. I mean, this is the thing. If there's anything that makes it that, it's the fact that not all, but many New Yorkers feel like the South killed hip hop. You know what I mean? And when they say the South, they're talking about Atlanta specifically, and many times in that notion. But yeah, I mean, that's not a great way to start the conversation when you're saying that a certain region killed hip hop. It's like, come on, we didn't kill it. What? I think a lot of people from New York and Atlanta work together. Maybe there could be more. I think, you know what?
I don't have any biases. I have so many New York friends down here. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's like never confused with me wanting to rep Atlanta properly with, you know what I'm saying, me not loving, like New Yorkers or New York pop. It's just your sports teams suck, and I hope they all...
I'm not even going to go that far because I love New York. New York's like a second home, man. New York has always shown love. I remember growing up, you hear Southerners talk about how rude people in New York are, this, that, and the third. I remember my first times going up there. I met people that I still talk to this day. I love New York.
No, I'm a Cali guy. I'm going to go to Cali.
Now, I love Cali too. But
yeah, Cali's where I'm going to New York. I'm sorry.
Nah, I mean, me personally, as far as the weather and all of that stuff, I probably would pick Cali on that. But if we're talking about hanging out, rooftops, you know what I'm saying, drinks after work and all of that stuff, I'm going New York with that. or at least the New York I remember.
Going back to Cali,
Sporting events. Nah, it's
uh,
like I remember going to a Mets game, man. Like the sporting events in New York is different.
were the Braves playing?
No, it was St. Louis, I think. Yeah, the
I ain't
Cardinals were playing.
don't need to do that.
Leroy Green with the super chat says, if you go back to 2000, there were a lot of talks about people wanting soul samples back. So when the Blueprint dropped, that has a lot to do with its impact. Some people will tell you that started with Supreme Clientele, though. But I got you. I didn't say that. Somebody said that in a previous show, and I was like, okay, that's an interesting assessment. But I think the Blueprint made it mainstream. The Blueprint gave us that run that Kanye and Just Blaze went on.
Was it really a run?
What's that?
Was it really a run, or was it just the Blueprint? Like, what else did they produce?
I think it was a run. I mean, because even when you got Just Blaze hooking up with Fabulous for Breathe, Pump It Up with Joe Budden, you know what I mean? Like, now Just Blaze was everywhere after the Blueprint.
Just fucking around. I'm just asking questions.
Mad Max in the super chat says, it's a cold war, Mike, and a lot of New York do think that y'all kill hip-hop because hip-hop in New York is like gangbang culture in Cali. Hip-hop is a religion up here, like church. Well, we're sorry.
I would say you this.
What's that, Coop?
When I was up there earlier this year, I was like, I was just talking to anybody that would talk to me, Mike, because I told you people was recognizing me and shit. Make me comfortable as hell. You know what I'm saying? But I was like, people don't run up on me like this in Atlanta, and I be in the city. You know what I'm saying? And everybody, when I said that to Mike, their response to me is like, but yeah, Coop, you's ahead. Like, all your hip hop.
Yeah, you're right. The love for hip hop in New York is much different than anywhere else, and that's just the truth.
And so I'm going to give them that.
Oh, like, yeah.
They love hip hop more than we loved hip hop down here. But I think some of that does have to do with hip hop not loving us until Outkast. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like, how about this? If hip hop is 50, hip hop loving Atlanta specifically, or starting to, is only 30. So we're not there yet either. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, Mike, I very vivid, and I'm barely old enough to remember what it was like before Outkast. So it's like I also seemed like y'all was giving us love for the shit we was doing before Outkast. Well, it took somebody who sounded like a West Coast, East Coast influence with some Southern twang for people to latch on from other regions. So it's like that's not lost on me either, because I don't know if you noticed, there's nobody like Outkast in the South, including within the Dungeon family. That's what I'm saying. So it literally took a one-of-one type of group to spark this fire and ignite this flame, and it's a group that you will not find down here. There are more 8-Ball and MJGs and UGKs and even Goody Mobs than there are Outcasts. There's only one Outkast. It took an Outkast to make this shit real, and so there is something to that, So it's like, of course the love's not going to be the same. We're not necessarily feeling the love the same.
Well, I can agree with that. But let me ask you this. What really, and I know this is such a cliche of a question, what really made you fall in love with hip-hop? Was it the beats? Was it the rhymes? Was it an individual song? Because for me, to this level, it was the rhyme skills. And I remember hearing Method Man on, like, shadowboxing and shit like that. And I'm like, oh, no, this is something else. Method Man and Redman on How High changed things for me.
I think it was the struggle.
It was the what? Say that again?
The struggle.
Okay.
Like the struggle that I heard. And so the albums that I was drawn to, it was the struggle that I was drawn to, not even necessarily the artist. But it's like I've told you this too. Well, I was only when I fell in love with hip-hop, I was 13. And so it was all my cousin shit that I fell in love with. So it was Strictly for My Niggas by Tupac. Into the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers. He was a Tribe fan, so Midnight Marauders. I'm just thinking of all the tapes he had. Casual, Fear Itself from Hyro. Del the Funky Homo Sapiens album. He was a fan of Hyro. Outkast, Southern Playalistic. Notorious B.I.G., Ready to Die.
Yep.
Nas, Illmatic. Those were the tapes when I moved to Charlotte, because I spent a year in South Carolina before I made it back to Charlotte. So it was like a 2-year gap between me going from Atlanta to Charlotte. So by the time I made it to Charlotte, these were the tapes that Cuz had. And so it's like, that's what I related to. I related to what my cousin had that related to me, and I'd start making what his big brother would call my blunt tapes, where I would take those songs and mash together my favorite songs like Crumbling Herb and Claiming True. Would be in between like and The World Is Yours. You know what I'm saying? And so those guys, so like that's why Pac, Nas, and Big are so big to me. You know what I'm saying? That's why Outkast is so big to me. That's how I know Hyro and West Coast shit so well.
Well, see, the thing is, for me, I think what really made me fall in love what made me fall in love with it to this degree was a lot of the things that stylistically New York MCs were doing. And so that's kind of how I became a real big New York head. When it came to the West Coast, it was more about the production than the song making. And as far as here, you know, we had our own individual scene and all that. I was kind of able to compartmentalize what we were doing. And you know what I'm saying? Where it was like, okay, this is Atlanta and this is what everybody else is doing. And I think that for people who might have came up in an era where Atlanta was already on, they can't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so it's almost like you coming up in a time where Atlanta is the focal point of hip hop. And I think you and I came up in a time when Atlanta wasn't the focal point of hip hop. So we got exposed to everything else.
Or anything close. I'm gonna tell you what I mean is that like, I can look back on this now. The only album, Mike, that I can remember, the only rap album I can remember dudes in the street playing in Atlanta when I was a kid that wasn't from down here was The Chronic by Dr. Dre, Mike. It's literally the only shit that I heard out in the streets of Atlanta, because like around that we didn't. It was like Ghetto Boys. You know what I'm saying?
UGK, A-Ball, MJG.
Right. Like I didn't know who any of these other dudes like that I knew when I moved up to Charlotte and saw Cuz's tape deck. I didn't know who any of those guys were until I moved to Charlotte in September of '93. You know what I'm saying? Because down here on the east side of Atlanta, like I'm growing up around the same circumstances Nick is. That's why I understand. It's like, no, Nick, I'm hearing Kilo. Do you hear what I hear? You know,
I'm gonna keep it real with you though, Coop. If I didn't have cable growing up, because my dad was really big about having cable, he couldn't go without cable, ESPN, all that stuff. If I didn't have cable, I probably wouldn't have been the fan of like Wu-Tang and all. You know what I mean? Like most of my East Coast stuff came from BET at the time.
No, I mean, that's why I tell people, it's like, oh, Coop, you such a head. It's like, it's not me that's a head. Cuz is the head. Six is actually the head. Six is the one that signed East 1999. I'm just stealing Cuz's shit and just listening to everything. Like, he's the one that actually does. Like, anybody that's been in the studio with me and Cuz, no, he knows more than me. You know what I'm saying? Like, about all the music shit. Like, about all the albums, the production, the songs, what was being used. Like, I be sitting down next to him, and so I've had great teaching. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because it's like, I grew up under somebody that literally was my producer, but is also like the real hip hop head that made me a head. So it's like I was broke and I loved hip hop. So it's like, listen what the fuck Cuz listen to.
Right.
So when we were playing Tear the Club Up by 3 6 Mafia, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Jay Short with the super chat says Mad Max needs to stop. He knows the E40 DJ Quick, Juvie, and Sci-Hi ain't selling 2 tickets in New York. Gunna sold his tickets to non-hip hop fans. Black Wealth and Power. Shout out to Black Wealth and Power. He says, no, you ATL and New York ninjas have problems with one another. Stop underplaying it, Mike. Let's talk about it. Listen, I'm down to talk about it. I had no idea it was this much of an issue.
I mean, I think Nick that in his interview, too. He talked about being in high school at Redan and having to fight the New York niggas.
He did say that.
Right. Like, let's not act like it's nothing. I told you, like, a lot of my connections down here came from a lot of the bad boy niggas that used to run down here and throw the parties. And so I know exactly what Nick is talking about, because guess what? They used to have a house in Decatur on the east side.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
36 Chambers.
My homies that I grew up with and went to grade school with, they ended up going to school with Swiss and his crew. They used to tell me stories. No, that shit real.
36 Chambers with the super chat says, usually I agree with Jay Short, but saying the E40 ain't selling out a show in NY, I know I'm West Coast biased, but that's a crazy take. Is it? CJ Kid with the super chat says MOP Warriors had soul, but Ghost was bigger than them. We know Jay is bigger than them, so it went from little guy all the way up to the top.
Kind of like MOP Warriors. That Warriors in a long time in that regard. Okay.
I love that record.
Dope.
Let's see.
Their best. So might be their best.
I think so. Either that or Firing Squad. CJ Kid with the super chat says, I saw this question. Who had a bigger impact on ATL, Outkast or Jermaine Dupri? Do y'all really want me to go there? The answer is Outkast. But I don't want to minimize what Jermaine did. Jermaine did a lot. I think that Jermaine's mentality, and we talked about this in the Nick Love interview as well, I think Jermaine's mentality was more so of a inclusion mentality. I would compare him to Dr. King in the Civil Rights Movement.
Thinking Booker T and W.E.B. Du Bois.
Okay, but I'm thinking more so in an integration type of message where it's like, let's go to New York and let's make things that are palatable to both us and them, as opposed to let's just do us and we're enough. You know what I mean?
Now, do you remember what Nick, the pre-marketing guy, said though? The guy that didn't, or he was a marketer, was like he didn't like what Jermaine Dupri was doing because what was he doing? Trying to appease to a crowd outside of Atlanta because Nick doesn't feel like our artists should have to do that. Mike, that's exactly what most great New York rap albums are. They're great New York rap albums that just happen to make it to other places. Illmatic is about Queensbridge, Mike. So is The Infamous. Some of my favorite rap are only built for Cuban links, Mike.
Well, let's look at Jay-Z though. What Jay-Z did that separated him from those albums that you're talking about is he made money in the thing with Jermaine Dupri. You know what I'm saying? He got on high. He stretched himself out. You know what I mean? Like him and Jermaine had a similar mentality. You know, I'm deep in the South, kicking up top game. You know, money in the thing. Like they were supposed to come together because they had a very similar mentality when it came to that, and it worked for both of them. I think in spades.
I agree.
But I think that at the point that Atlanta was at the time, it was important to have somebody that was here, that was actually speaking the lingo, talking about the street names, talking about the places, the landmarks. I mean, we needed that in the same way that, like you said, like somebody in Queensbridge needed Nas's Illmatic or the Infamous to talk about the things that are around the corner from them. I mean, when I would hear Goody Mob speak on like Bankhead Seafood and shit like that, like these are places right around the corner from me. Like, and I'm seeing this on BET, like that's different than seeing Jermaine Dupri with the Brat doing Funkdafied, which is great, and or seeing him with Criss Cross, which is great. But I think Nick brought this up too. Criss Cross wasn't wearing no Braves jerseys. They was wearing like Oakland and Yankees and this and that. And at that time, that meant something, you know?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
gotta represent.
That's why Outkast is so important to us.
Especially when you need representation.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they repped Atlanta. They never hid their Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And they never tried to, and I don't want to say it in a disrespectful way, but water down their Atlanta to appease the rest of the nation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's why the interlude, this is one of my favorite interludes ever still is the Welcome to Atlanta interlude. I'm like, yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That shit still gives me chills. Before the beat drop for Southern Playalistic, it's like, you can see Georgia Dome still flies the Confederate battle flag. I'm like, yep. I'm like, still, you know, this is 93, 94. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You remember when they took the flag down, Mike?
I remember.
Yeah.
And so you know, like, this is in the same way that Dre represents Compton. You know what I'm saying? Like, unapologetically. Same thing with Quick. And we needed that level of representation. And at the time, that just wasn't Jermaine's path. And that's cool. Right. But what we needed was somebody like Outkast, Goody Mob, and the rest of the Dungeon family to do what they did.
Yeah. Like, how about this? The way we talk about East Point's greatest hits by Cool Breeze is the way niggas up top talk about OC's Word Life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's got a level of bias, Mike, because of where they're from.
Mad Max of the Super Chat says, I grew up in the same time the South had the crown. And when I was 13, I fell in love with hip-hop when Fab was making those soul tapes. That explains a lot. So you're biased to the Fab soul tapes.
The soul tapes are your introduction. Right.
Yeah. Let's see. Firebird Phoenix, $20 Super Chat showing love. He says, yeah, because just put that fire on the confession, too. I've been up top hanging and been up to promoting it always. Awesome energy, but the South dragged the needle across the record coming in. It was different. Nick Love interview was fire. Yeah. I mean, I think every 10 years you're going to get a different sound coming in. And one thing the DJ Kool Herc said was each generation makes hip-hop their own. And that's what happens. Now, I don't know if it's just a regional thing or now that we got the internet, everybody's kind of playing on the same playing field and there really isn't any local scenes like that anymore. But each generation is going to take hip-hop and do their own thing with it. I just hope that the lyricism to some degree comes back, on a large level. And I hope that people start making albums serious again. And that goes for all of music. Mike. I think that goes for all of music, the album take.
Here's what I'll tell you, Mike. In of being unbiased about it.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the South has something to do with the drop-off in the level of lyricism that we find in the game.
Most definitely. It does. I'll admit that.
So but here's what I'll tell you. For our age bracket, like, that's not what we were raised on. We were raised on Andre, Big Boy, CeeLo, Scarface. Like, we were raised T.I. even early on. No. The guys down here early on spit they riding their ass off.
Ludicrous.
And so it's like when the trade-off happened, but I will admit to the trade-off happening.
Because I think it could be deduced down to Soulja Boy. And I know that he's a very polarizing figure, but as far as like showing that you can make a hit record, saying the bare minimum, doing the bare minimum, making your own beat, and not having a full-out production, I think that kind of starts with Soulja Boy, for better or for worse. I mean, is that fair?
That might be a good time. I was thinking around the gang Lil Jon, but that was also Tips Come Up, so you're right. I might go Soulja Boy.
Yeah, because he showed that, you know what, I can make this work. I can make a hit record doing this. Don't have to be super serious on the track. The track doesn't have to be like crazy, fire, no sample, no nothing. It kind of just stripped the game for a minute. Mad Max of the Super Chat says, Fab saved me from the Wayne and the rest of the South stuff I couldn't stand. Fab, Banks, Cam, Jules, Jada, 50, then Ho came back, and then Nas' Life is Good. Okay, I see that timeline.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's like, ask a New Yorker to name their top 20 MCs of all time and see if you get more than 3 guys not from New York. And they'll argue you that Tupac is still from New York if they put him on the list. You feel what I'm saying? So right. Pretty much the only going to make their list is going to be like Ice Cube and Scarface. And the rest of it's going to be New York rappers, Mike.
Well, I know we kind of started with this, but what do you take from the fact that LeBron's top 5, and LeBron's from Cleveland? LeBron kind of represents everybody. He's LeBron. The Chronic, Doggy Style, Black Album, Life After Death, and It Was Written. So those are 2 New York, 2 West Coast, 3 New York.
I'm okay with those picks. You want to know what else I realized too, Mike? Deep Cover is damn near a Snoop Dogg solo mission. This motherfucker been a bad man for a long time, Mike. I was playing Deep Cover the other day, and I said to myself, I just realized Snoop's doing most of the rapping on this record.
Yeah.
Snoop's a star, Mike. Biggest star. He made Deep Cover and he wrote The Chronic and he made Doggy Style. Mike, just that alone, just what I said, that's better than 90% of the rap careers that have ever existed.
And he's
Mike.
had a pretty great career after that. Like even if we cut all that out, he has a great career after all of that.
Mike, just that. He made Deep Cover. He wrote The Chronic. He made Doggy Style.
I think he's the biggest star we've ever seen in hip hop.
He is, like deep.
Either him or Pac. But when they both were alive, he was the bigger star. It is what it is in music. Now Pac had the movies and stuff, but Snoop had this aura, man.
That's Mike. I don't think you understand. It's like, see, this one of those things you had to been there. It's like I was 10 years old. Ain't nobody rapped like that, Mike.
Everybody knew every single word of anything Snoop said.
187.
Snoop could just get on a hook and be like, "She got the bomb," and it's like, I mean, this song is yours now. Like, Snoop was the guy, man. Jay Short the Super Chat says, "This is why I respect the Bay so much. They do them regardless of what anyone else says or sounds like. Mass appeal to be damned." I agree with that. I do respect the Bay and their hustle. On top of that,
they're number one as far as independent goes. They've always been number one to me.
See, it's them in Houston, but yeah, definitely.
No, always. I'm sorry, like before Houston, the Bay.
Yeah, because you got 40. Really, Master P, Too Short.
You got Short been making since like 83, 84, 85 in Oakland.
Right. Mad Max of the Super Chat says, I mean, you naming 3 guys, you ain't say Game, Cube, Roddy Ricch, etc. Can Buckshot sell out Staples in Cali? And 40 gonna sell tickets. That's real. Mad Max of the Super Chat says, I wouldn't say the Soul Tape's my intro. I heard hip-hop since I was a baby. I ain't fall in love with it until fat.
Yeah, me too. I grew up on it too. It wasn't until, like, Mike, you really want to know what it was? You know who piqued my interest, Mike, and this is why it was Wu-Tang Forever. Of all those tapes that got played, I found Enter the Wu-Tang to be the most fascinating. Like, I listened to Illmatic and Southern Playalistic more, but Wu-Tang were the ones that fascinated me. I was like, when Cuz was played Protect Your Neck, I was like, what the fuck?
Wu-Tang pulls you in, you know, and I know even when you and I did the Wu-Tang, and this is probably why I'm so scared of the Wu-Tang Tribe thing. When you and I did the Wu-Tang and Dungeon Family matchup on Patreon, I love the Dungeon Family. I mean, I would say Wu-Tang and Dungeon Family are 2 crews that I could just listen to nothing but their music. But when I was playing some of them records and you were playing some of them Wu records, I'm like, God damn, man.
Favorite crews. I'll never forget, Mike, I'll never forget when I walked into my cousin's room and he was playing Shame on a Nigga and I heard Method Man and Old Dirty Bastard for the first time. Yeah. And I was like, who are these guys?
It's something like, different, man.
For the first time, it's like, who are these guys? It's like, what the fuck is that? You know what I'm saying?
You and I were just talking about the W. I think the W is unfairly treated just because of what them niggas made before it. Like,
or Mike, it's a great 4, maybe 4. Maybe
right.
5. It's a great album.
36
There's
Chambers.
not a lot of album.
What's that?
Nothing but strong records. It's just not, you know, it's not fucking Protect Your Neck or Cream or Canada or Cash Still Rules or Reunited. It's just not that.
Or Shadowboxing or Living in the World Today. Cold World. Like
Wu-Tang is responsible for the best East Coast hip-hop we've ever heard, Mike. More than any crew or collective is.
I agree. And I feel like that when I listen to the Chronic and Doggy Style, I'm like, this is some of the best hip-hop ever made. So, yeah, if we want to talk about West Coast, I'm going there. We want to talk about East Coast, I'm going Wu. If we're going to talk about the South, then I'm going Outkast, in my opinion.
I'm just taking the Dungeon Family, but Outkast in particular, yeah.
36 Chambers with the Super Chat says, my hip-hop moment as a kid was hearing Mac Dre, E40, Too Short, Hyro, Living Legends, and People Under the Stairs, etc. As a kid, hip-hop was almost magic. It was, man. And, you know, and I think that's what happens when, and I think this happens in every generation. when you get to a certain age and hip hop is still being made and you don't have that same feeling that you had when you heard Into the 36 Chambers for the first time, you start to dislike the hip hop that's going on, but that's not necessarily for you. That happens in music, period. You know what I mean? It's not fair to hold hip hop to the standard that you held, that I don't want to say that you held it when you were a kid, but you know what I mean? Trying to feel that feel that you got when you were a kid from hip hop. That's not going to happen again.
So what I do understand about dudes from my era, it's like, well, when I want to hear it, Mike, you want to know what I do?
Put it on.
I go play it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's still right there available to me. Guess what? When I want to hear The Diary by Scarface, because I get tired of all these rappers that think they're so hard, talking like they hard and talking tough, and I actually want to hear some gangster rap, Mike, guess what I have an opportunity to do?
Throw on The Diary.
It's right there. It's amazing how that works.
Black Wealth and Power with the Super Chat says, my entry point was The Blueprint 3. I was a freshman in high school, and it was my first album I bought with my own money. You know what? I'm hearing that a lot with The Blueprint 3. I think that The Blueprint 3 was that last J album that really got marketed on a high level as well. The Blueprint 3 has some bangers on it. Mad Max with the Super Chat says, like my pops would play Hove and Big, and in that I hate Biggie. I heard that kid too much. Heard that as a kid too much. You don't know how pissed I was when Big Papa came on. Biggie was hard though. Let's see. We got Bleaches with the Super Chat says, 04 to 07 was the worst era in hip hop. Not only was the ringtone rap ran rampant, but all of the top rappers like 50, Luda, MJ, etc. put out their worst albums in that time frame. What say you about that 04-07 range?
I will agree to. I feel like it's more like, you know.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit. Say that again.
I feel more like 07 to 10, 11.
I was going to say that. I think 05 was pretty heavy, man, because with 05 you had B, you had Thug Motivation 101, you had, Late Registration. There's some stuff in 05. I remember the documentaries in 05. So, yeah, I would say more so 07 to 09.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
The Jets game is about to start, and I really want to see them lose and
Okay.
enjoy. So, and I don't want to lose too many people in the room because I know our New York contingent is going to go watch their team lose.
Okay.
Queens dudes. So let's do the super chats and get to our final topic. Which
let's do the super chats and let's talk about this Nas finale thing. CJ Kid with the super chat says, is Dr. Dre the Stan Lee of the West Coast? Never thought of it in those terms, but yes. Yes. Jay Short with the super chat says, New York hip hop fans are just as biased, arrogant, and player haters as much as they were in the 90s. I love New York rap, but I loved watching them fall off.
See, that's a West Coast guy. That's not a Southern guy talking.
No, I loved watching them fall off. I like New York being good. I like the Knicks being good, but I get it. Jay Short with the super chat says, keep it 100, Mike and Coop. Dipset was when New York fell off. After they tried to force them on us, we was like, nah, let's check and see what ATL got. The Dipset did adapt. I will say that.
Dipset had as they adapted too.
Mm-hmm. LP with the super chat says 40 and Short get played more than Drake in the Bay.
As they should.
As they should.
And we
Okay.
can that in our respective regions, the way the Bay shows their locals love.
Anthony Negron with the super chat says, imagine if Nas released the 25th anniversary edition of the original I Am double album. That album is the best rap album that never got released. We can go down a whole rabbit hole on that.
Have you watched the show before?
Yeah. 36 Chambers with the super chat says, ringtone rap is the same phrasing that we use for mumble rap. There were quality projects released during that time. I was a kid, and I was an old head mentally back then, and 04, 07 had hits. I think when they talk ringtone rap, they're saying Soldier Boy, and I think when they say mumble rap, I think that they're thinking about Future and possibly Takeoff from the Migos. That's just kind of how I take it. Before we get out of here though, because I know everybody got to watch this game, man, and I'm looking forward to seeing Aaron Rodgers' Jets debut. Shout out to New York. Nas posted an Instagram post that was cryptic. It had the graphic of the letter N, his logo on his name, and it said the finale. What do you take from this post? Is there anything to take from this post?
First of all, I know that it scrubbed the page too.
Yeah. Usually when people scrub the page, an album's coming. Usually.
I ain't talked to the plug in a couple weeks. She's been busy. I've been busy. I think communication might have been cut off until whatever happens, actually.
Okay.
She actually, today, she told me she was good. She had to take care of some things. You know, I've had some things to take care of. But I was just checking in on her, actually, to see if she was okay. I don't really care about this other shit like that, like on that level, because me and Taj have a whole relationship now. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like kind of checking in, making sure she was okay. But I haven't heard anything. But that hasn't been like, you know what I'm saying, like the MO when Taj and I talk. Like we rarely talk music when we talk like on the level of like, you know, information. You know what I'm saying? We talk about music the way you and I talk about music. You know what I'm saying? But me and Taj more or less talk about life. So I don't know exactly what's in the works, though, but I know she's been busy and scarce, which makes me think that it's pretty big. And about it being pretty big, when I realized the page was scrubbed, it's like, oh, well, it's probably Operation Lockdown, because it's like, well, I've heard enough things and talked to her enough to know how these proceedings go with him and his team. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like they keeping this one super, super tight, and we're going to have to wait and see. I go back to the verse on Office Hours, where he's talking about doing the two series at once. I think KD3 is a great finale for that series. And so it could be Magic 3 coming. And also, too, well, he's about to be 50 in a few days. Hip-hop is 50. Finale could mean finale, Mike, and I've been kind of saying that for a while. There are some things that I know behind the scenes over the course of talking to Taj the past year that I'm just not going to share and never going to share because I'm just not built that way. But, you know, that's a possibility just from what I know from the conversations of the past year that aren't music related.
I think that it would be apropos to have a Magic 3 when you have the KD series. It's 3, Magic 3, and you got that whole three-peat thing going on. Michael Jordan three-peated twice, right? And so, you know, I think that a finale with Magic 3 sounds like it could be fitting. And it could make sense. And like you said, it's happening on the 50th anniversary of hip-hop and, you know, his 50th birthday. And we're talking about 6 albums over a 3-year span, give or take?
Ridiculous.
Yeah. And so, yeah, if you go out like that, I mean that's going out on top. I mean, I no matter how you slice it at this point, Nas is going out on top.
Yes, he's the greatest MC of all time.
Yeah.
Even if I did know the point, I wouldn't share.
Okay.
You know, I don't think it's been fair to what's been given to me for me to share, because it's like, well, this past year I've learned a lot about how they move and what they do and what they don't like. And it's like, you know, out of respect, it's like, no.
No, definitely.
No. Even if I did know something, I really don't know anything. But if I did, like, I wouldn't say anything out of respect for how the camp is moved and for how the camp has treated me. You know what I'm saying? So it's
shout
all
out to them,
business.
man. It's been an amazing ride, and I mean, I hate to see it over, but again, that's why hip hop is so great. Somebody else has to take up the mantle, and it can't just be 1 or 2 people. And shout out to Hit-Boy, or 3 or 4 people who are taking on the load of the whole culture. Like, People should look at what was done here and take note and take action. Because again, it's wide open.
I mean, Mike, and I'm going to say this again because I still don't think people understand this fully for the gravity of what I'm saying. We thought King's Disease 1 was a victory lap, Mike.
We did.
Talk behind the scenes before we did the King's Disease show about what a great victory lap this was for him.
Yep.
So for him and Hit-Boy to do what they've just done, these 5 projects and what's looking like their 6th and possibly final project together, Mike, it's been nothing short of exemplary.
Yep.
That's why we've been covering it. Like, I think people, this is what I'm saying. I think people have it confused. It's like, we're not covering him because Coop thinks he's the greatest MC of all time. Mike, I've literally thought that since 1996. It's like, that's not what this show is based on. They've made the best music while we've been doing this podcast.
And it was an honor and a pleasure to actually be the station head of the KD3 album before anybody heard it, before any of us had heard it, and it be at the level that it was. Like, those are special moments, you know what I mean? Like, no matter how far we take this, and we're going to take this very far, I'm always going to remember that, because it's always special to even be able to do something like that and have the audience there and everybody's listening to everything at the same time. But for it to possibly be, and I think it's the best album of the 2020 so far, that's a great moment. You know what I mean? Like,
KD3 or Pray for Paris?
I think KD3 is going to get the nod. Pray for Paris is very special, though. Very special. The lyrical performance and the production and everything on KD3, I think, would just trump it for me. And it being a true solo mission.
Here's how I look at it. If you take the best 15 albums of the last 3.5 years of rap, since 2020, like in this era, in this decade, him and Hit-Boy have literally made 5 of the best 15 projects we've heard in the last 3.5 years. They're responsible for listen to what I'm saying. 5 out of the 15 best rap albums we've heard in the last 3.5 years have come from this producer and this MC. And that's why we're covering. The same way when we cover, Mike, do you remember when we started covering the Griselda thing? And you and me were like, hold on, we need to cover this because nobody's really talking about how great this music are and how great this crew is and how they've assembled and galvanized themselves upstate and done all these things. And, Stove and then Boldy coming into effect with them from Detroit.
It had an energy, man.
It's like, yeah, that's what we're doing it for. Like, we're doing it for these moments. It's like, no, these guys have created moments. And you and I have always talked about how the media controls the narrative and certain people get lifted up high and other people get taken down low. And we wanted to keep it about who making the best fucking music.
That's what it's about. And also, not to cut you off, but also giving credence to the fact that if you do make the best music, you're going to be talked about. You know what I mean? Like, again, right. Abolish Uncertainties with, Jay Skeez's album. I want to talk about that more because I think that he probably made the most complete album of this year, in my opinion.
Right.
Hold
on, what camp is that?
Yeah, that's an extension of Griselda, but that's out of the Drumworks camp. Yep.
Drumworks?
Yep.
Conway Griselda.
Yep.
This is what we put it for. And so, like, people have to understand, when we talk, Mike, what we've talked about most in this 3.5 years, Mike, is Freddie Gibbs, Griselda, and Nas. Want to know why? They've made the best.
I mean, we could go to the projects and the albums to justify why we're talking about them.
Yeah, we got proof, Mike. We got proof of why we're talking about who we're talking about. And it's not because we have biases. It's like, no, I haven't heard a solo MC make Alfredo and Soul separately.
I mean, listen, you and I are from Atlanta. Well, I mean, I'm originally from Atlanta, but you originally from Carolina, but you're pretty much from Atlanta. We're not talking about the Killer Mike Michael album like that. So, it's no bias here.
Yeah.
Mad Max to the super chat says ringtone rap was trash. Mumble rap was better. I'm with you on that. I think mumble rap was better than ringtone rap if we want to split hairs. Mad Max with the super chat says, who's playing them ringtone songs anyway today? We still playing Future and old classic Migos 10 years after. Don't compare them eras. Mo Better Cut with the super chat says, what if this what if this is Nas ending his album run with Hit-Boy to start a new run with Metro?
All I know is that over, Mike, we always do it. Cover, making the best music.
Yeah. We cover who's making the best music. I mean, that's just what it is. Shaka Ross Speaks with the super chat says, hashtag King's Magic. Melvin Wright with the super chat says, I think it's time for Nas and Hit-Boy to part ways. Magic 2 just wasn't that good, and I'm going to quote Nas for saying too much of anything can hurt you. Time to work with someone else or others in general.
Well, here's what...
I don't have a problem with their pairing at all.
Well, here's what I'll tell you, Mike. Name of the MC, producer combo. They got 5 albums like this, Mike.
Ah.
Huh?
I mean, look. I mean, one would say Gangstar, but...
I told you, Mike, it's like, no, they really are like, they're making an argument for best MC producer combo because they've got the best.
They got a lot of work together. They do.
Best 5 albums, soon to be, it looks like 6 album catalog, Mike. And if we're getting a KD4 or a Magic 3, or if we're getting a new title project, Mike, if it falls within the sphere of the other 5 projects, Mike, that would make them the best MC producer combo ever.
Got to think about that, but you may be right.
Name 5, Mike, because we just talked about Eric B. and Rakim. God bless him, but don't sweat the technique. Is the 4th album. They made 3.
I always lean on Dre and Snoop, but they just don't have that amount of work.
Enough.
Yeah. Mad Max to the super chat says, yeah, KD 3, Magic 3, 6 albums in 3 years, 666. LOL. I'm sorry, but this just sounds Celtic. But I'm not gonna troll like that. See, we got the conspiracy theories in here. I think we need to go ahead and get up out of here and watch this game. Dot with the super chat says, let's be real. Who has dropped a better project than KD3 in the last 13 years? It's fair.
It's up there, Mike. So Mike, remember when I told you a year ago, I was like, I think he's about to make a top 50 rap album.
I think that's, yeah. I think in his catalog alone, it's definitely top 4, and it could be top 3, possibly.
I think it's top 5. But
what do you think is, because I got Illmatic, it was written, and Stillmatic better than the album. That's, everything else is kind of up for grabs.
I love the Lost Tapes, Mike. You know how I feel
I
about
know
the
you
Lost
do, but as a complete effort, though, can you not see how KD3 is better than the Lost Tapes?
There ain't no Drunk by Myself or Blaze of 50 or Do-Rags on KD3. There's just not. The home run, the home runs on Lost Tapes. The home runs on the Lost Tapes are severely underrated, Mike.
I love the Lost Tapes, and I think Lost Tapes would probably go right after KD3 to me.
It's an argument. I think it's about what you like. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm going Illmatic. It was written Stillmatic, Lost Tapes, and then probably KD3.
Well, all right.
Mike, depending on how I be feeling, that's what I'm saying. It's like, be like KD3 Magic. It's like one got. I be fighting. Mike, I've never had to fight about his catalog with myself the way I find myself fighting about his catalog right now. That's what I'm saying. Mike, how many great albums did Gangstar make again?
We're not going to go there. We got to get out of here.
Mike, because they only make 3. That's what I'm saying. These guys are on. How about this?
These guys are on a tear.
Magic thing, they made 4 great projects, Mike. Let's say Magic 2's not your thing. It's definitely made 4 great projects. And I guarantee you that if they're scrubbing down and tightening up ship like this is probably, I'll tell you what, this is going to be better than the Magic 2.
Yeah, I feel like if they're gonna finalize this thing, I think they're gonna go out strong, and they're gonna be really meticulous about it.
On my album cover,
you know, After
crazy.
this, and I want to give Hit-Boy his props, man, because as a producer, producing complete albums, he's on another level right now. I would like to see Hit-Boy hook up with J. Cole if possible. Can
You'll
that?
see how any project sound, and I'd
Yeah,
like to hear Hit with Cole too.
yeah. I mean, if Hit does a whole Cole
But
project, the way that Cole's rhyming, I would like to hear that.
it lines up era-wise too. They're kind of technically from the same damn era.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that'd be an interesting combination. Have they worked together yet?
I don't know. I'm not being funny. It's just like I just want J. Cole to rap. I don't want him to do his beats.
Yeah.
Dead ass serious.
All right, well, we got one more super chat before we get out of here. Clayton is asleep with the super chat. Says Lost Tapes over Katie 3. Top 3 albums for me is top three album for me. Ain't no Ideas original on this Hit Boy run, even if they're close. Just my opinion. I love No Ideas original. That shit's crazy. All right. Well,
That's what I mean. Like, you gotta love it.
Purple. Yeah.
50, Purple, Black Zombie, Fetus.
Fetus, yeah. Do-Rags was my shit, man.
Do-Rags is like a personal top 10 Nas song. That's what I'm saying. Is it's like Do-Rags is one of my 10 favorite Nas joints. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do-Rags is back, fitted hat, snokes and birds.
Rikers Island bus still packed. What's the word? Drink is still drinking.
Puffin' ain't herb. And on that note, we're out of here. Make sure y'all check out that Nick Love interview that is on this channel that everybody kept talking about. And also the Love Jesse interview. Hit like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to know when we're live. What's that?
One more, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Stop being surprised when BET does these things.
Oh, who talking about me?
No, everybody. Like, BET snub Nas. It's like, where have you been?
It's kind of a running joke at this point.
Right, I'm about to say, Mike, and somebody commented on how, like, you know, because I defended Nick Love in his comments, and some people was like, well, we running up on him the way you run up on other people. It's like, oh, I be running up on other journalists. Are y'all marketing directors and music business mavens like Nick Love is? Because it's like I run up on other journalists, and I haven't actually been running up on them lately. But I be running up on because they be doing shit like this, like the BET Lyricist just did. You feel what I'm saying? So it's like, don't think that we are the same.
I think we need to go in on that list on Wednesday.
A different animal.
For sure. All right. Like and subscribe. Go Jets.